Live from Orlando, Florida, you're now listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Orlando Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans, and welcome back to another not another episode, our 100th episode of the OZone Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Basketball Podcast Network. We're your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony, and today is Friday, February 11th. We're just one night post of the NBA trade deadline. What's up, Al?
What's going on, man? Congratulations.
100, man. You believe it?
Man, it feels so real, man. It's amazing to think that we started this thing 3 years ago as a thing that we just tried to see how things came out and what would happen. And here we are, man. 3 years later, 100 episodes. Man, what a journey it's been.
3 seasons, man. It's crazy. And in celebration of our 100th episode, we talked last episode about doing our giveaway. So we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA trade deadline, kind of how everything went down. But towards the end of this episode, we're going to do a live selection of our winners. So we'll be discussing that a little bit later. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can just kind of skip over and we'll have the chapter there. That way you can kind of see who those winners are. And then we'll be reaching out to those individuals as well. Now, with the trade deadline out, a lot of people were kind of expecting a fire sale. Gary Harris, Terrence Ross, maybe Robin Lopez, maybe Mo Bamba. But that wasn't necessarily the case. They're still on the Orlando Magic roster. What were your thoughts, man? What were you expecting?
Man, so I think heading into today, I think we all Magic fans expected at the very least one trade, but I would call it a meaningful trade, not a small move, right? So we expected either Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, or Mo Bamba to be traded. Personally, I expected 2 trades of some sort. Fast forward to 11:17 p.m. that we're recording this episode, only one trade happened, and Mo Bamba, Gary Harris, and Terrence Ross are still in town. So I am not extremely surprised, but I will say that I did expect one of Terrence Ross or Gary Harris to be traded, and that didn't happen. So I will say that, yeah, that did surprise me. How about you?
So the Orlando Magic did obviously make a move, just wasn't a move that anyone was expecting, which kind of is the trend. We never know what our front office is doing. There's no whispers. There's none of that. But the Magic did acquire Bol Bol, PJ Dozier, and Boston's 2028 second-round pick, protected 1 through 45, and cash from Boston for 2023 second-round pick, protected 1 to 55. So these picks are heavily protected, so you can kind of wash those out. No one is expecting for those to convey. The Orlando Magic also did announce that they are waiving PJ Dozier. And kind of leaves us with Bobo and some extra cash. So what does this mean? Because there was a lot of talks that people were kind of thinking that, we'll end up just waiving Bobo. And then based on what we're hearing from Jeff Weltman in the latest article on Orlando Sentinel from Kobe Price, is that's not necessarily the case. This is someone that the Orlando Magic are looking at as a young, talented prospect that they believe started off their career on the wrong footing. And they believe that Orlando is a great place for him to kind of get back on track. So what are your thoughts on Bol Bol?
Man, so what was it? 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, he was traded from Denver to Detroit. And I remember my Twitter feed filled with Magic fans saying, what? All it took was a second-round pick to get this kid a look. Why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we jump in on that trade and make that happen? Fast forward to the trade deadline, like you mentioned, the picks are kind of going to be a wash. So we're not going to count that. So we traded almost nothing for Bol Bol. So now we have another young player that we can add to our system. As Jeff Walton loves to say, put our arms around him.
Yep,
and
that old
see
saying.
What can happen. So to make this very clear, he will not play this season, more than likely, like 98% sure that won't happen. So the earliest we might see him is at Summer League, if that, or just in training camp preseason next year. So yes, another project, another injured player. Honestly, I don't know what to expect, but I will say, for it to cost us nothing,
why not?
Why not?
Why not? Honestly, I was expecting for there to be more of a celebration from the fan base. I thought people were going to be hyped for it, and I really didn't get the general sense of that. This is someone that has been kind of I don't necessarily say linked to the Magic per se because we really haven't heard anything like that. But it almost happened during the Aaron Gordon trade. We thought that he was going to be a part of that, or there was at least a general consensus that the fan base wanted for the Magic to trade for Bol Bol. And that wasn't the case. We ended up getting RJ Hampton in that deal. And this is another project. This front office really, really likes their project. I think the only thing that I would consider frustrating, or maybe it's the reason why people aren't as excited about this acquisition, is the fact that we're bringing in another injured player, as if we don't have already an abundance of injured players. What are we supposed to do? Do we keep waiting? Are we hoping and praying and wishing? Like adding him on board is just another player that it's going to take us a while to really say, okay, now we're fully healthy. Now, granted, this is a player that was drafted in the second round, definitely had a lot of uh a lot of people were hyped about Bobo during the NBA draft, and he ended up falling and slipping. And from the glimpse that we've seen from him from summer league and some of the games, people really like what they see. He's kind of a unicorn in his own sense. The things that he's able to do at his height, he's 7'2", 7'8" wingspan. Like, this dude has crazy length. There is a lot of things there to get excited about. Question is, how long are we going to wait to be able to see those things?
So as you mentioned that, I just realized JI is about to come back at some point. So is Markel. We haven't talked about this yet, but we also waived a couple of vets today that were injured, in each one more, and Michael Carter Williams. So when you look at our injury list, pretty soon it's going to be pretty thin, hopefully. RJ Hampton's going to come back. JI's going to come back. Markel's going to come back. Guess what our front office decided to do? We love to have someone in that injury reserve that we have to develop.
We have to keep somebody on that injured island.
So that's, I think, what they like. All right, we already went through the JI recovery. He's almost back. So is Markel. Let's add one more young guy to the list that we can kind of keep on developing, hopefully. Listen, it could be like the Markel Fultz trade. When we traded for him, we had no idea what we were getting. We traded, Jonathan Simmons and a second-round pick for Markel, not knowing if he was ever going to play for the Magic, let alone turn out to be the point guard that he became in his short time that he was able to play for us. So I'm not saying that this is going to work out. Nobody knows. Again, in my mind, I'm learning to be more realistic with the Magic. I'm not going to assume that this is going to work out by any means. But if it does, even if 50% of it does end up working, I wouldn't mind Bol Bol being a third-string center on the Orlando Magic next season and playing when Mo Bamba gets hurt or if Wendell needs a night off. Who knows? I mean, the few games that I've seen of this kid, ESPN loves him. Social media loves him. He's got 1 million followers on Instagram. So the worst case scenario here, we get even more media attention. That's the best that can come out of it.
It's wild because you take a look at kind of how the dynamic is going to kind of shape around. Let's say that Mo Bamba ends up saying, and we don't move him during the draft, and he's on this roster next season. If you have a healthy Jonathan Isaac, a healthy Mo Bamba, a healthy Bol Bol at some point. Let's say that the Orlando Magic end up drafting Chet Holmgren. The amount of length that this team, like, we know that this is the front office loves it, but the fact that it fully had, like, can you imagine how difficult that it's like a bunch of spider webs. There's going to be deflections everywhere. Now it's going to be interesting to see kind of how the dynamic works. This is one of those, and you mentioned it earlier, kind of very similar to, trading for Markel Fultz, low risk, high reward. It's a bonus. If he ends up playing well, great. If he ends up not playing well, we didn't give up anything to bring him to Orlando. So I like the move. I don't know why I feel like people would be way more excited about it if it was a trade to bring him here while trading for one of our vets. Like if we would have utilized one of our vets to bring Bol Bol, but instead it was a second round pick. So I think for the front office, they definitely see it as a win. I think the best move that the Orlando Magic made during this NBA trade deadline is really the moves that they didn't make. We were hearing a lot before or during this morning and this early afternoon before the trade deadline at 3 p.m. that the Magic had a really high asking price. They were asking or demanding a first round pick for Rolo. They really wanted the first round pick for Terrence Ross. And what it seemed like deals didn't get done because they weren't coming off of that. Teams were waiting for the Orlando Magic to bring the price down on Terrence Ross to hopefully give up 2 second round picks for Terrence, very similar to what we did last year with Evan Fournier. That did not happen. So I definitely say kudos to the front office. They didn't make a trade just for the sake of trade, in my opinion. And I think that, no matter what ends up happening with the vets that we have now, there's still a lot of good things to look forward to. You still got the return of Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac. You still have the NBA draft that's coming up with the top 5 lottery pick. There's a lot of things to look forward to, and I think that that's one thing that you can at least hang your hat on.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I think the one takeaway about keeping Ross and Harris is just that it highlighted how our front office is not here to get played. Like they will hold on to their assets, even though it may result in buying out Gary Harris in a couple of weeks, which then you wonder why not simply get a second round pick for him at least. Well, the guy's making $20 million a year. It's not very easy to match that salary in a trade or trade into a team that has cap space. Again, the Thunder could have been a team, but why would they want him? So, like you mentioned, the Lakers probably wanted Terrence Ross. There was a lot of rumors and smoke around the Lakers wanting him. Well, guess what? They were not willing to part ways with a first round pick. We're not going to help you, LeBron. We're not going to help you, Lakers. Like, keep on your little team that you have going on there and figure it out. But it won't be from us. And you got to love the fact that our front office has the balls to make that decision. Whereas other teams would have been like, you know what? We have no other choice. Just send to the Lakers. Very last minute. So it's good to see because in previous history with the Magic, they would have caved and just taken 2 second round picks for Terrence Ross and called it a day. So I think in that sense, we learned something new about our front office, and that is we will not make bad decisions. We're trying to do things the right way here.
Front office, they're not no pushovers. I know that there's still like a lot of people in the fan base that they're still critical of this front office, but this is again an experienced front office that they're not going to put us in a bad financial situation, and for the most part, they've been doing a really good job since. So I'm definitely okay with the decisions and the decisions that weren't made by this NBA trade deadline. Now, at the same time, we did see some adjustments made to the roster. So with the addition of Bol Bol, we also saw that the Orlando Magic waived Michael Carter-Williams, Etuan Moore, and I'll be honest with you, it took me back a little bit. I was a little surprised by it. I knew that there had to be some type of roster adjustments and decisions that needed to be made, but I really was looking forward to Michael Carter-Williams coming back with this roster, just because there was so much flexibility with him. He can play 1 through 3. Definitely is the heart and hustle type of individual that is going to go out there, give you 150%, dive on the floor, get bloody, whatever case may be. But he was someone that I was really looking forward to coming back from his injury, and now we're really not going to see that from him, as well as a player that we signed earlier this season, and we didn't even get a chance to see him play at all in Etuan Moore. Nothing. The most that we got from Etuan Moore was him helping out some of the players with their floaters. That's it.
That's it. I mean, let me first of all start by saying, man, Michael Carter Williams is not a perfect player by any means, but you cannot forget what that guy did for our franchise back in 2019 when it seemed like we had lost it all. We lost Briscoe and the play of hopes kind of were dimming. This guy came in and the Magic put on a crazy run, all because of this energy, all because of what he brought to the court every single night. So I don't know. In my mind, that run was created by Michael Carter Williams. And I will always remember that from what he did for our team. And then he was a great vet. He never complained. He never whined. He did what he was asked of him. We made him change from a point guard to a small forward, putting a bunch of weight and a bunch of muscle. He went and did it quietly. He took it and just did it. And now, unfortunately, it ends in him being waived. Like you mentioned, I would have loved for him to be a part of this locker room and continue to lead these young guys because, again, we do need some vets in the locker room. And that leads me to my next point. It's kind of scary right now how we only have three vets in the locker room. We only have Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, and Robin Lopez. The rest is a bunch of young guys. So I don't know if more moves are coming. I don't know who they're going to be calling up from Lakeland. I don't know what's next, but they need some vets in that locker room because it's a lot of young guys just trying to figure it out right now, and that can be dangerous.
Yeah, and it might get worse in the sense where John Hollinger of the Athletic kind of came out with his list of potential buyout candidates, and he listed Gary Harris and Robin Lopez as potential buyout candidates. Gary Harris will be an unrestricted free agent after this season. So, do you see the Magic buying his contract out, or do you see him staying with the team for the rest of the season and then him becoming a free agent towards the end?
So I think it truly comes down to what Gary Harris wants. We talked about it last week. The front office will do what's right for the player. If Gary Harris comes out and says, you know what, I'm happy with the rebuild. I believe in what's going on in Orlando. I want to be a part of this. And I'm okay resigning here. We'll talk about numbers in the summer. Then you best believe the Magic will do their best to keep him and make him an asset in our roster. Now, if he's in the locker room saying or talking to the front office saying, hey, man, like I love what we got going on, but I would love to just be, I don't know, in LA with the Clippers or whoever it may be and help them make a playoff push. Or heck, go back to Denver and help them out, make a playoff push. I think in that scenario, they would buy him out to make sure that he is satisfied, he's happy, he's not in the locker room creating a bad environment, which I don't think he will either way. But my point is, I think they will do what's right for him. So it depends to what those talks being over the next few weeks. Does he want to be here? Then you can expect him here. Or heck, have they happened already? Do they know that Gary Harris wants to resign in Orlando? We don't know. But I think whatever happens in the next few weeks will tell a lot. If he's still here by April when the season ends, you may see Gary Harris resigning in Orlando. We don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I honestly don't see the benefits, just kind of looking at it from his perspective, why he would want to sign here. Just the age group is a different dynamic, as well as him being a free agent. He's going to want to get the biggest contract that he can possibly find. And that big contract is not going to come from the Orlando Magic. He's at the end of his 4-year, $84 million contract that he got from Denver. And right now he's ending the season getting paid $20 million. There was a lot of high hopes, I would imagine, from the Denver franchise and him, being an elite player. And he's not, I don't think that he'll find that same contract elsewhere, but I definitely think it'd be a great idea for him to go out there and look for that. But this is also a contract that's coming off the Orlando Magic's book. That's $20 million. That's it. We're not paying that anymore.
That's right.
Past the season. So a lot of benefits from it. That's why I see the benefits of, not necessarily benefits, but I'm okay with the fact that we didn't trade him because we don't have his contract for a long period of time.
Exactly.
But I'm curious to see what ends up happening, especially with Robin Lopez. When we signed Robin Lopez, a lot of people were confused as to the reason why we signed him to come here, when there's a lot of teams out there that can really utilize his services. I think a lot of people underestimated how much of a Disney fan this man is, and that may or may not have been a driving force. But it's definitely something to continue to keep an eye on, because this is something that could happen within the next weeks, month, whatever case may be. But something to keep an eye on for sure.
Let me ask you this real quick. Would you, if you were running the front office of the Magic, what would you do? Would you think, hey, let me go ahead and buy out Gary Harris, do right by him if that's what he wants, in order to allow Markelle Fultz, RJ Hampton, these guys that are injured at the moment, to come back and get those minutes? Or are you in the belief that, hey, if he wants to stay here, he's an asset. If he's willing to stay, let's hold on to him. What would your choice be?
So he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. I think it would benefit the team to work on a buyout. make him available before the playoffs and have him join the team as a rental for whatever's left. If it allows the Orlando Magic to save a little dollars, I think that would make a whole lot of sense if you're able to negotiate a buyout. But if not, his you want to be able to have, if you lose out on Gary Harris, then now you really only have Terrence Ross and Rolo. Now let's say that you lose both of them and you do a buyout, then you're just left with Terrence Ross. You have open roster spots and you can add somebody, but who are you really adding? Who's out there on the market that you can add from the buyout market to replace those guys? These
I think
guys they've already been in the team. They've already battled with the guys. They already built chemistry. I think, in my opinion, it would make more sense, unless you're able to save a couple dollars, to let these guys ride out the rest of the season.
yeah, and I mean, like I said, the only thing that makes me wonder is the tank. Many Magic fans are wondering now, like, wait, we kept these two vets that are going to play. They've been helping us play better lately, especially Gary Harris. Would they impact the tank? Teams are coming for that tanking position too. Like you got OKC trying to lose like crazy, Houston, Detroit, Indiana's going to start losing a lot more, Portland. So the concern now becomes: are we in danger of putting ourselves out of the top five?
Yes. Yes.
And are you okay with that?
We've talked about this before. The Orlando Magic, they're not your normal worst team in the NBA. We're starting to win games, and this is before adding our two best players. No NBA franchise would succeed without their two best players. It's a reality. Now one team. But now you bring back Jonathan Isaac, you bring back Markelle Fultz. Yes, they have to get acclimated. Yes, they have to kind of get used to the new players that they haven't played with. I get all that, and it will take time. But whether or not you have Gary Harris or not on the team, or decide to buy him out, whatever case may be, you still have these two guys coming back, and they're going to impact the game in winning ways. How many games? Who knows? But they're going to impact it in winning ways, and it could potentially mess up the quote unquote tank. It's going to happen. I'm not worrying about the tank right now.
Yeah.
I'm not worrying about it at all, because we did that last season and we ended up being where we're at. I'm at the point where let it play out. Whatever happens, happens. We have an abundance of young talent. Would I really want one of the top three guys in this draft? Absolutely. Who doesn't? But at the same time, it is what it is. What are you going to expect when you get Jonathan and Markelle back? What are you going to expect? You're going to expect for us to play worse? It's not going to happen.
That's right. Yeah, I think if anything, the team's only going to get better from here. That's the reality, right? So the only thing that makes me think is the front office get their hands in there, and now you'll see Terrence Ross with a little knee soreness, missing a bunch of games or things like that. But again, either way, when you add Markelle and Ji to the mix, even with the minutes restrictions, they're going to make the team better. So, like you're saying, we cannot be here hoping that every game will be a loss, because it's not going to happen. And don't forget, we have one of the easiest schedules the rest of the way, and we play a ton of home games. So winning will happen here and there. It's so don't stress over a single win here and there. Just don't do it.
All right. So, Al, let me ask you, are you okay with that outcome of the NBA trade deadline?
The fan in me wished for at least a significant trade, like I said earlier, either Terrence Ross or Gary Harris. But I am satisfied with it simply because we did not make a bad move. We did not go out there and just make a move to make a move. We stayed put. It shows that we're happy with what we got so far. And we'll revisit these talks at the draft. Terrence Ross will be discussed again at the draft. He'll be discussed again next trade deadline if needed. Like, it's going to happen. So I wouldn't say that it was the best outcome, but it wasn't a bad outcome.
I agree. It wasn't a bad outcome at all. I'm okay with the fact that, again, we made the move that we made, and I'm okay with the moves that we didn't make. I think it gives us an opportunity now to really focus on the second part of the season, and I'm looking forward to now the changes and the addition of Bol Bol, because I think that's going to be fun, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. when he got traded to Orlando, there's a lot of people on social media outside of the Orlando fan base kind of rooting for him, saying that, I can't believe that this guy hasn't made it on the roster. This guy's he's going to surprise a lot of people. Wait until he gets healthy. There's a lot of people rooting behind him. You had already mentioned that he has a really big, social media following, and he's someone that and we've seen it before when he had some of the highlights in preseason. They went viral, and it's crazy because there's not that many players in the NBA that's able to do what he does. So it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. And I'm happy that he's on the Magic. I think it's gonna be a good move overall.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yep. All right. So not crazy amount of things that went down in the NBA trade deadline for the Orlando Magic. There was a lot more excitement happening around the other side of the NBA. The East definitely got mixed around a little bit. But with that being said, we're going to jump into our 100th episode giveaway. So Al, if you want to pull that up.
Do this.
So as we discussed before, the first winner will receive jersey of choice between Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner. Second pick will win two lower bowl tickets to a future game this season. And then third place will win a guest on one of our future episodes. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and pick the first winner.
Perfect. So the first winner, we're going from the top down, or we're going from the bottom up? So we're going featured on the podcast, or are we doing the jersey first?
Let's go featured. So this is going to be our third place winner, featured on the podcast.
Let's do this. So we
third place winner. And the winner is Jacob Bogue. Did I say that right?
Jacob, yes,
Jacob
sir.
Bogue.
So Jacob will be reaching out to you, and we'll make sure that we coordinate a time to get you on the podcast. Congratulations.
Right, a lot of people were saying that they would prefer being a guest on the podcast than the other option. So
that was surprising. I'm not gonna lie, that was very surprising.
Yep.
All right. We're doing the 2 lower bowl tickets next.
2 lower bowl tickets. Sam Crilly, congratulations, Sam Crilly. You are the winner of 2 lower bowl tickets to a future game. Exciting.
That is awesome. So again, we'll be in touch with you as well, Sam, and we'll coordinate that game and get you those tickets. Final price. We got the jersey. So we got either Franz Wagner or Jalen Suggs jersey of his choice.
All right. And it's Stefan Lavalier. Lavalier? Did I say that right?
Stefan. Yep. So Stefan will be in touch with you as well and get you your Franz Wagner or Jalen Suggs jersey.
Nice. Congratulations to the winner. Thank you, everyone who participated in that giveaway. There'll be more giveaways in the future. And really exciting stuff. 100th episode. Can't believe we made it to 100. 100 is really different. You know how much commitment and consistency is needed for 100 episodes?
Think about it, man. You were at a wedding today. Here we are, almost at midnight, recording this episode. So don't go too far. We can see it tonight. The dedication.
That's right. All right. On that note, it's a wrap for our NBA trade deadline episode number 100. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Magic fans. For all the latest Orlando Magic news and updates, follow us on Twitter at the OZone Pod and on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.